We're going to start off with a little short 4-minute video that talks about one of our clients in Santa Rosa that was lucky enough to survive the fires over there a few years ago.
The Buyer's Family Guarantee is doing the right thing for our clients. Home is where the heart is. It's where we can all feel safe. We had known that there was a large catastrophe that happened in the Santa Rosa, Sonoma area with all the fires. Knowing that we had some of our clients affected from that, and I really wanted to get out there firsthand to see what that damage looked like.
A home is a home. It's like, where you come after a day's work or after a vacation, you're coming home. You can't wait to get there. It is paradise. After living here a while, it's just a wonderful place, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I'm the last of my generation in my family, so I have, I've accumulated everybody else's memorabilia. I've got boxes of pictures from probably 1880 all the way up through the present time from relatives. The night of the fire, maybe 8:30 or so, stepped out the door, and it was about a 40-mile-an-hour wind or so, and there was a lot of smoke in the air. Went back in the home and turned on the news. There was a fire in Calistoga, which is about 20 miles away. I think we were just getting smoke. I wasn't really worried about the fire. Somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, I was woken by flashing lights. When I got up, looked out the window, and the building next door to me was on fire. Pretty much panicked at that time. I hadn't believed it. It just happened so quickly. I woke my wife up, told her we had to get out of the house right now. Let's go. So we hadn't any thought of taking anything from the house. My thought was just get out as quickly as possible. There were fires on both sides of the street as we were driving out. Pretty scary. Embers were coming down like snow. The smoke was so thick you could hardly breathe. The fire wiped out most of my neighborhood. Over 5,000 houses were destroyed during the fire. It was a really horrible incident. Driving up through all the devastation, I got probably 2 or 3 blocks from here. I could see the house through the trees, and I almost cried when I saw it. I couldn't believe it. It was still standing. So I never thought about my belongings ever. I never thought about that. Just that the home was still there. It was unbelievable, and a very emotional experience. Seeing all that devastation and then seeing my home still standing. And, of course, we were still alive. That was paramount in my mind. It wasn't until 2 or 3 days later when I started to think, well, why did my house survive when all these others burned, I started thinking about, the stucco and the roof, and then other people that I'd met had been talking about how their house burned because of leaves in the gutter catching fire, and it's a fact. I just don't think the house would have survived if we hadn't had that leaf guard system.
This is why we do what we do, helping save the home and preserving those memories. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So we've had a couple of instances where we've seen wildfires go through an area. Grizzly Flats was another one where lone house survived, and they had done rogue things to get prepared. One of the things that we saw, in fact, there was an article in NFPA's magazine, that's the National Fire Protection Association, about the Grizzly Flat fire, and they interviewed this particular gentleman, and he was talking about all the things he had done. And you didn't specifically mention leaf guard, but we were looking at the photos and we went, hey, that's our gutter. So we felt pretty good about that. But Byers has been around since 1987. We started off as roofing contractors. And we took on Leaf Guard in 1995. And the major concern there was keeping people off ladders. We wanted a system that didn't have to be cleaned out. And we later found out that it's also really great for fire. Also do home hardening now. We do solar, we do land clearing, and we also do solar tubes if you've got a dark area in the house. Over the years, we have seen a lot of fire events that have become catastrophic. And you can kind of see how the numbers have been increasing. 2007, it went down a little bit, and through to 2015, and then in 2016, we jumped way back up. Of course, Carr, Camp, and Woolsey, 16,000 homes were burned. One of the things historically that we found is that if you look at old photographs of our area, you'll see that there's hardly any trees around, and that's pretty true for the whole state. We have a lot more vegetation than we've had in the past years, so that's also leading to the danger that we have. Now, state law is continually passing new codes. In fact, in 1991, when Oakland Hills burned, we saw a lot of codes that got changed in the building codes. One of the big things they did was they originally said no more vents in the eaves. They all have to go up on the roof. They've since softened that and gone to a WUI compliant. WUI is Wildland Urban Interface Area, which is where we live. And if you're in the WUI, you have to have special screens on your vents. I think that's statewide now. Class A roofs up here certainly are a requirement. One of the things that they've also done is a screen on the ridge vents. If you build today, those are some of the items that you have to have in your home. We were just talking, Chris is joining us. He's battalion chief with Grass Valley and also a client of ours. Thank you, Chris, for showing up. But he and I were talking a little bit earlier about sprinklers, and how they're being fired now, not really as a means to put your fire out, just as a means to help you get out and stay alive. So that's also a good thing. But all those little code increases, they all cost money. One of the things that they did was they passed a law about gutters having to be covered, and that actually benefited us, but there's a lot of different options there. Insurance companies are also really pushing change. We're seeing folks getting calls from their insurance company, do this or we drop you. Do this or we not renew you. Get a new roof or we not renew you. We've even had people call up and say, hey, my insurance company wants us to put in softening overhangs, or they're going to drop us. There's a lot of pressure being put on from the insurance companies right now. And one of the main reasons is they want out of the state. And unfortunately, one of the main reasons they want out of the state is it's so expensive to rebuild here that they just can't afford it when a wildfire disaster happens where you have 16,000 homes, or like we had this year in SoCal. Very costly. In fact, probably some of those people down there won't rebuild for years, if ever. We all talk about defensible space. And there's a change of the guard, if you will. We're going away from the term defensible space, and we're replacing that with the HIZ, and that means home ignition zone. Defensible space kind of intimates that there's going to be somebody there to defend your home. Well, reality is there's a lot more homes out there than there is fire engines. In Nevada County, we probably have less than 20 fire engines in the whole county for thousands and thousands of homes. Take Lake Wildwood, for instance, you got almost 3,000 homes there, and Penn Valley has 3 fire engines. Not that Grass Valley wouldn't run down there and everybody else, mutual aid going there. But the reality is we have to prepare. I love this quote by Jack Cohen. Now, Jack Cohen's a PhD. He's in fire sciences in Colorado. Calling wildfires a natural disaster tends to put us in a passive victim role, and yet we have tremendous opportunity to keep these disasters from occurring if we're proactive. Really, the goal for us should be to be able to drive away from our house if we get evacuated and not look in the rearview mirror and say, have I done enough? We need to prepare going into that so that we're not in a position where we're taking our last glimpse at everything we hold near here in our lives. So we've all heard about the defensible space, which is now we're calling the HIZ. A couple of years ago, I attended a conference from NFPA on ignition zones and sources and what have you. And they were talking about a study that was done up in the Canadian territories, up in the Northwest Territories. They had a lumber company up there that donated a stand of timber. And what they did was they studied crown fires. They built several little structures and they had them 10 meters and 20 meters away from the edge of this stand of timber, and they torched the timber, which was pretty spectacular. What they found was the average exposure from the crown fire was only 59 seconds, believe it or not. At 20 meters, which is roughly 66 feet, there was little or no charring of the wood siding and no ignition. And at 10 meters, which is 33 feet, there was charring, but no ignition. So that's where they're coming up with the 130-foot dimensions. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Anything I say that you go, oh, I'm calling on that, you speak up. So it kind of mimics what we're calling now is zone 2 and zone 1. Nobody expects to have bare earth, but in zone 2, you want to, really important to keep all your dead trees out and your branches, mow all your grass down 4 inches or less. If you can achieve a separation of 10 feet between trees, that is really advisable. That's what they'd like to see. But we live in the forest. Sometimes you aren't able to do that much clearing. So really important to get the ladder fuels out. And the ladder fuels are anything that's 6 feet and below. So I always look at it as high as I can go with the pruning saw. That's what I'm aiming for, is get all those ladder fuels out. So we want to keep that from becoming from a low intensity ground fire to a crown fire. You know, that's something that you can really concentrate on. And then your zone 1 is 30 feet out. You want to maintain your horizontal spacing. Again, 10 feet is good. Also vertical. So the ladder fuels, you don't want short bushes underneath trees that might create a ladder fuel situation. And in some cases, you may need to take out some brush and bushes around the house to make it a little more livable. This is a great illustration right here. You can see there was a crown fire on the right side of the road. The embers jumped over the stand of trees. So it's not just continuous crown fire, but the other side of the road, they all burn because of embers. And we know that over 90% of the homes that burn in a wildfire situation are ignited by embers. In fact, if you look at some of the fires, you'll see stands of trees in and around homes that are completely destroyed. And this just tells you that they weren't really prepared. You know, and a lot of these tragic fires in neighborhoods like Santa Rosa, because people thought, hey, we're safe, we're in a neighborhood, we're not in the forest. Well, it can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere. So zone 0 is really the most important zone, and it starts with the peak of the house. You need a Class A roof. Now, a Class A roof, a lot of people don't know what that means, but a Class A roof, now all shingles today, this is what they call a burning brand. And what they do to test this is an ASTM test, which is the American Society of Testing Materials. What they do is they build a roof, a little test roof. They take this and they put it in a fire and they get it completely going. They set this on the roof and fan this at 12 miles an hour. This burning brand's got to completely extinguish before it goes into the house. That's pretty significant exposure. Okay, as opposed to a Class C. A Class C test is the same test, but they use 25 of these. Same deal. They get these all on fire, they put them all on the roof, and they fan it at 12 miles an hour. So you can see there's a big difference between Class A and Class C. So if we keep our roofs clean, we should be fairly protected on the roof. So, you know, a lot of people look at sprinklers on their roof. makes you feel good, and if you're watering the surrounds, it probably is gonna be effective, but if it's just watering your roof and you have a good Class A roof, that's still Class A, not too old, you're pretty well protected. When we talked about embers, here is a test that the IBHS did. This is a test facility they have, and they actually have this house built on a turntable. They could spin that whole thing around, but they have these ember generators, which we'll see in a second here. And they blew an ember storm at this house. Half the house, you can see right at the window, is on the right side is I will say non-combustible materials. And on the left is standard construction. Now, you've heard people, I think, after a firestorm, they'll say, man, the embers were coming down like snow. And so this is really not that far off, but if you noticed, the very first was the gutter and the ground around the front there. And here you can see the vents. There's a vent up there in the eave. And with a 1/4-inch mesh, it comes right through. Even when you go to an 1/8-inch mesh, or this is 1/4-inch, I'm sorry. Those are pretty big embers. And what they've determined is an 1/8-inch mesh, which does meet the code now, will still let embers through, but they don't have enough BTU on the other side generally to cause a problem. So here's some round events. Again, you can see the sparks fly right in there. One of the things that we're offering now is upgrading the vents, both foundation and attic. We're using a product called Vulcan currently. It's not the only one on the market, but it is a locally produced product. And the way that this is built is inside here, you can kind of see that there's a honeycomb of aluminum in there. On the front, we have an 1/8-inch mesh screen. On the back, they put a 16th-inch mesh screen. And in the center here, they have this honeycombed aluminum, which is coated with an intumescent coating. So this intumescent coating, as it hits about 450 degrees, will swell shut and become a 1-hour firewall. This also meets the code. This is tight enough mesh that it will preclude a lot of embers. It doesn't preclude the flame. So good, better. There's also other manufacturers out there. We've also installed some of the Brand Guard vents. This is a little bit different design. Doesn't have that honeycombed aluminum. Inside of this little maze, there's some fabric in there that's been coated with an intumescent coating, which also will swell up and kind of shut this off. We like the Vulcan because it has a little more venting capability. This kind of chokes things off a little bit, but being a local company, we also want to stay local because we can just run the wheels and pick things up. We also have the E-vents, plug in the burnt holes, and those come in various sizes. They don't have 2 screens, just the honeycombed aluminum and the mesh screen up front here. The insurance companies are starting to require folks to get a brand new roof if they don't have a roof that's less than 20-25 years old. In fact, we had a gal call. I think she got a roof done in 2017 and had solar put on directly after. And they called her and said, hey, your roof's over 20 years old, get a new one or we're gonna drop you. Unfortunately, the contractor she hired did not pull a permit. And so they had no proof. They had to go and get an as-built permit, which if you've ever been through that process, not fun. There's obviously some wind damage on this roof, but over on the right side there, you'll see a lot of the granules are missing there. Here's a job that we just did. You can see the difference, how many granules are lost off there. And the granules are offering the fire protection. Once you lose a lot of those granules, it's no longer a Class A roof. That's why the insurance companies are looking at things going, hey, if your roof's 25 years old, you're exposed. We all are familiar with open top gutters. They were great for catching rainwater, but they also caught everything coming down the roof. And it didn't make sense to have a Class A roof with a tinderbox right at the edge. Homes do catch on fire. Remember, when the 49er fire. We had a client down in Lake Wildwood. He said, hey, my neighbor's house caught on fire. I went and put it out. Everything was burned in his gutter. First thing they did was they said, hey, we gotta put screens up. You could have 1,000,000 screens out there. We got screens that are fine mesh. We got screens with square holes, round holes. You got metal screens, you got plastic screens. They all have one basic design flaw. They create a flat spot at the edge of the roof. So all the material falls down and sits on the screen. In essence, all you're doing is taking that risk from inside the gutter and piling it on top of the screen. Plus, you gotta go up there and clean it or dig out. This is why covered gutter is a better option. Now, there's about 3 different products out there in the market that we think are better than screens. K-Guard, gutter shutter, and of course, Leaf Guard, which is near and dear to us. These all have one common thing, is they all have a slight angle on the hood that doesn't promote stuff sitting on them. If you are in a situation where you have to evacuate, there's a couple things that you need to remember. Keep your go bag ready to go. Make sure your action plan is up to date. If you have family, where are you gonna meet? Who's getting the dog? Who's getting the cat? Who's chasing the cat and cursing at the cat because he won't come back? You wanna know your evacuation routes. During at the campfire, in fact, there was a situation where they couldn't get out, right? 2 roads in, 2 roads out. And a lot of people got stuck. Well, they found some grassy areas. They actually went in, torched them, and pulled everybody out there after it burned. So it's nice to know, hey, where's an area near me that could be safe if I get trapped? You know, these are things that, again, if we plan ahead, we could survive that situation. Closing all your windows and doors, but leave them unlocked. And they also say interior doors, close your interior doors. That will help keep air from moving around in the house. If you have light curtains, you want to get those out of the way. If you have heavy curtains or shutters, you want to close those. And the reason why is that fire will make your windows break. Now, if you have single pane windows, which probably not many of us do anymore, but double pane is always better than single. And if you have a deck and your windows down low, those are probably tempered. That's required by code. Those are going to live longer than a standard glass window. What we want is to keep those embers from breaking through and getting in the house and causing a fire on the other side. Turn on your outside lights so they can see your house if it's smoky. You want to turn off your gas. You got propane, let's turn that off. There's a few things that you're going to want to get around and do before you take off. Open your gates. If you have a wooden gate, the firemen, they call that a fuse, because it will burn right to your house and you're off to the races. Oh, your air conditioner, switch off your air conditioner. That'll keep air from being moved around, promoting flame and what have you. You have barbecue grills with propane tanks. You want to get that away from the house. Don't leave your sprinklers running. Put your emergency kit in your car, park the car in the driveway facing out, loaded and ready with all the doors and windows shut. If you have a ladder that you can put up next to the house, they can get up on the roof faster if they need to. Keep an eye on your fire situation. Biggest thing is when they give you the evacuation order, don't hang around. Just get out. They hate it when people are, you know, they gotta chase people down to try and get them out and not save structures. So pets, if you have large animals, you wanna make sure that they're able to get out. Because I could go on for hours about roofing. We've changed things a lot since we did your.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, yeah.
So things have changed a lot. One of the things that fires did when we went out of the roofing business, we were so busy with Leaf Guard that it was really kind of an easy decision. And at that time, we were the largest roofing contractor in the county. Our competitors were like, what? You're doing what? We couldn't believe it ourselves, but we let go of that. And when we got back into the roofing business, we said, you know what? We're not going to live at the bottom. We're not going to be the cheapest out there. We're going to give the best roof that we can possibly give and sleep at night when it rains. The life of a roofer when it rains used to be bad. But we build a roof to last the 50 years that it's guaranteed for. And the way that we do that is we use a lot of ice and water shield. Now, ice and water shield is a asphalt-based product that's like a big sheet of tape. Up in the alpine areas, Truckee, Tahoe, it's required that you have ice and water shield from the eave 5 feet beyond the interior wall for ice dams. We have discovered that most of our dry rot comes from critical areas, the rake edges and the eaves and the valleys. Those are the critical areas we'll see the most dry rot in homes. We tear off the roof. Those areas get protected with ice and water shield. We use a half sheet, which is 19 inches, all the eaves and your rake edges. Our valleys get a 39-inch, a full roll. The way we put our valley together here in the WUI is ice and water shield. We use a 72-pound cap sheet, which is the same thing that they use on a hot mop roof. It's required under a metal valley. And then we use a painted steel valley with our shingles over the top. We also use synthetic felts. Tom, I would bet that your house has old 15-pound felt, which was black.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right? That was old black paper. You could tear it real easy. This stuff is nearly indestructible. There you go. So it's designed, it was really designed to be left exposed for weeks while guys were building. They would come in, they put the underlayments down, and now they're pretty much watertight inside. They could insulate, they could put their electrical in, and while the roofer was doing his thing. They're all prorated. Now, the way the warranties work is like this. You buy a shingle, it's rated for 50 years. For the first 10 years, if all the granules fall off or it splits, they'll give you materials, 100%, and a handful of magic beans for the labor. It's pittance, but you will get something in the first 10 years. On year 11, you get prorated. So you've already gotten 1/5, so it drops by 20%. And from there on, it drops over the next 50 years and it bottoms out at about 20%. They don't cover any labor on your level 250. That's the guarantee that every roofer in the world has. Because we all buy the same product. What we offer when we do your roof, because we're a platinum contractor, we offer a platinum guarantee. Now, this is because we put all the good stuff in there. And we have a great track record with Owens Corning. We have all the proper insurances. So we're able to offer an upgraded warranty, and what we offer is a platinum guarantee. So here's what platinum guarantee does. It takes that 50-year material warranty that prorated after 10, and it levels it out. There's no proration for 50 years. If your shingle goes bad, they give you 100% replacement. That's pretty good. They also cover our labor. If we make a mistake, we are covered. First 2 years, we're on the hook. After that, Owens Corning will actually pay us to come out and fix your roof if we made a mistake. The beautiful thing is, if buyers, God forbid, should go out of business, Owens Corning, who's been around since 1937, will hire another contractor. I'm out, fix your roof. That's pretty good. The other thing is, in a sales situation, if you go to sell your house and you do it within the first 20 years, the new owner for $100, within 60 days, they have to register it. For $100, they transfer it in their name and they ride that into the sunset, just like you would. On year 21, it becomes a 2-year guarantee. Now, when you sell your house, most banks want a 2-year certification on the roof. So then that $30,000 negotiation that always seems to occur when you're selling a house with an older roof, it goes away, because you've got a roof that you can say, hey, it's backed by a guarantee. You won't have any problems. So the guarantees that we offer are superior to what most guys can't even offer or will offer, even if some of them are able to give that guarantee. So that's kind of how we look at roofing. We build the best roof that we possibly can, because we have people that we know for 30 years and they come back and see us every year.
Just to throw something out there for you guys, a couple of you can,
Yeah.
my name is Chris, I'm a battalion chief, here in Nevada County, but. I've spent 30 years up here in the gold country, excuse me, from far down to Sonora all the way up here to the Nevada City area. And when they're talking about these products here, the goal is to have as many of them as possible. We were talking before this thing started about the difference between defensible space and zone 0, zone 1, zone 2, and we call them winners, we call them losers. It's important to understand there's no silver bullet that's going to be there. So I think a big key sitting back here and kind of listening to his presentation tonight is we talk about the value that the good quality roof provides, but also the protection that it's going to give you in the event of a ground style fire. The importance of the gutters getting the material away that was on the roof away from your home, and then integrating your vents and all that stuff is going to help to improve it. But again, then we want to install in there that zone 0, because remember those vents, a lot of that ember travel is what's coming from real close to that house, especially when we're talking about the stuff lower down. So it's a combination of everything. So I understand that when you're putting these here, it's important that you work towards, and I think that's what you're going to see the insurance companies go to right now. They want everything done right now, but the cost that's affiliated with that, so it's a method of working towards those products to get them there, so it gives your house the best opportunity. You mentioned the McCourtney fire. I was the first engine captain to that fire. That same night when it went out, they had the fire down in Loma Rica, and I had a number of friends that were down there, and Pat, one of them was on duty working with me in another firehouse up here, and he ended up losing his garage. But he lost his garage 4 days after the fire front went through. And it was because he had shredded landscape material that went right up there. And it went in through the vents because he didn't have this type of defense mechanism. So even if he had that shredded material there, those vents would have significantly improved his chances there. So real quality products, and I think you're seeing, I think it's still early, but I think you're going to see a significant improvement in the survivability of these homes in these environments as the years go.
Do the gutters and the roof interfere with each other at all?
No effect, whether you have a regular gutter or a leaf guard gutter. When we do a roof, it doesn't really matter. The one thing is, if you have open gutters and you get your roof done, you have to put screens on them at the bare minimum. That's a code requirement. And as I mentioned, screens help, but they don't really solve the problem. That's what we see. They just aren't really effective. And if you're putting a plastic screen up, totally ineffective. They crush in, and as soon as they get warm, they melt.
Well, I haven't cleaned a gutter in over 30 years, so.
Amen, brother. How many times have we had to clean it?
Yeah, you cleaned them
Once or twice?
two or three times.
2 or 3 times in 30,
Yeah,
once every
yeah.
10 years, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. You know, when we first started selling Leaf Guard, Ray Senior and I got together, because Ray Junior wasn't here then. And we said, man, we take this gutter on, we're gonna be cleaning gutters. We thought, what could we survive? 5%, maybe 7%? Less than 1 historically. We have less, it bounces right around 1%. We have a service crew, that's what they do. They go out, clean gutters, fix some problems. We're happy to do that